You look at two glasses of amber liquid placed side by side and assume they belong to the same family. The same golden brown color, the same faint aroma of oak, the same warmth spreading from throat to chest. But if you trace them back to their origins, one begins in a vineyard rich in fructose, while the other starts in barley fields dense with starch. They do not simply follow different recipes. They belong to two distinct biological systems. One is the product of fermented fruit. The other results from starch being broken down by enzymes into sugar before fermentation even begins. The difference is like comparing apple juice to toasted bread, even though both can eventually become alcohol. Imagine a fruit salad made of grapes, apples, and pears. In each grape, roughly 15–25% of its weight is natural sugar. That means in 100 grams of grapes, there may be up to 25 grams of sugar, about 5 teaspoons. When yeast consumes that sugar, it produces ethanol and carbon dioxide. Wine forms with an alcohol content of around 12–14%, meaning that in a 100 milliliter glass,
grain starch,
about 12
however,
milliliters
is
are ethanol. If that wine is distilled, the ethanol vaporizes at approximately 78 degrees Celsius, lower than water's boiling point of 100 degrees Celsius. The vapor is then condensed back into liquid form. The result can reach 60–70% alcohol before being diluted to a drinkable level, usually around 40%. That is the path to brandy, the essence of fruit, concentrated into a stronger, denser form. Now shift perspective to an imaginary loaf of bread made from barley. Barley kernels are primarily composed of starch, not simple sugars. Starch is a long chain of glucose molecules, like a necklace made of thousands of tiny beads. For yeast to eat it, humans must first activate enzymes during germination, a process called malting. The enzyme amylase cuts those long starch chains into smaller sugars, such as maltose and glucose. The mixture is then heated with water to extract these sugars, creating a sweet liquid similar to beer before hops are added. After fermentation, the alcohol level reaches about 5–8%, comparable to strong beer. Distilling this liquid produces the base spirit for whiskey. In essence, whiskey is distilled beer without carbonation and without hops. One spirit begins with sugars already present in fruit. The other must first convert starch into sugar before fermentation can even occur. That early chemical difference shapes the entire flavor structure that follows. The shared chapter begins after distillation, fresh from the copper still. Both brandy and whiskey are clear as water. No color, no amber glow. If poured into identical glasses, visual distinction would be nearly impossible. The color and much of the secondary flavor comes from aging in oak barrels. Oak contains lignin and hemicellulose. When the inside of a barrel is lightly charred, lignin breaks down into vanillin, the compound responsible for the familiar vanilla aroma. Hemicellulose decomposes into sugars that caramelize, contributing a golden hue and subtle sweetness. Over years of aging, the spirit seeps into the wood and back out again, carrying dissolved molecules with it. If aged for 10 years, approximately 2% of the volume may evaporate each year. From an initial 100 liters, less than 82 liters might remain after a decade. Time and evaporation shape smoothness. The difference in raw materials reveals itself again when you raise the glass to your nose. Brandy often retains esters derived from fruit, producing aromas of dried grapes, baked apples, and white flowers. Whiskey carries phenolic compounds and Maillard reaction products formed during malt drying, bringing notes of toasted bread, caramel, and sometimes smoke if peat is used. If peat is involved, phenol levels can reach several parts per million. 10 parts per million sounds small, but imagine 10 drops of ink in a bathtub of water. The human nose can still detect it. Our sense of smell is remarkably sensitive. For certain compounds, even a few parts per million create a strong sensory impression. Placing the two glasses side by side is like placing two agricultural histories on the same table. One story begins in warm vineyards, where sugar accumulates under sunlight. The other begins in cooler fields, where grains must sprout and dry to release enzymes. When both enter oak barrels, they share the same chemical environment, yet each carries its own legacy. Oak adds color and flavor, but it does not erase the signature of the original ingredient. Debates over which tastes better usually reflect personal preference rather than objective standards. If you prefer ripe fruit aromas and rounded sweetness, brandy may suit you. If you enjoy roasted grain notes and a gentle spice at the tip of the tongue, whiskey may appeal more. Choosing between them is like asking someone to pick between fruit jam and toasted bread. Both involve sugar and starch, yet the experiences differ completely. The next time you see an amber glass glowing under the light, you might think about the chemistry behind it. Natural fruit sugars or starch molecules sliced apart by enzymes. Alcohol vapor rising at 78 degrees Celsius. Vanillin dissolving from oak walls, a few liters evaporating each year in exchange for smoothness. If those details make a bar counter feel like a small laboratory, there are many more experiments waiting to be uncorked.